volumes. Yeah, we'll be starting this topic today. Just click on the hide now. Yeah. Okay, so the important thing is Docker by default or by nature is ephemeral. Ephemeral in nature means whenever due to some reason, suppose the Docker container gets restarted, or generally in a production environment, the base host also changes. If in case the base host changes or the container gets restarted, the contents inside it are lost. Okay, so by default, the Docker containers are ephemeral in nature. Okay, so there is a need for an external volume. Okay, so that's why we are learning about volumes. We do not want our data to be deleted. Okay, so we can create various types of volumes in Docker. Okay, so some of the volumes are named volume. Okay, so that we create using Docker volume create command. The other one is the host volume, also called as bind volume, that we create using Docker run. Means at the time of creating the container itself, we can map a host directory. Host directory means the VM on which we are will map that host directory to the container directory. Inside the container, we'll map the host directory. Then there is also called as anonymous volume. Okay, but that is not so important. That is created automatically. We are not going to cover that. And the last one is the temporary volume. Okay, that is for you can say kind of storing the memory data. And why we require Docker volumes? Just as I said, the main reason is Docker by default is ephemeral in nature. That is, the data will be lost. Okay, that's why for data persistence we need Docker volume. Then we can have a volume which can be shared among multiple containers as well. So one of the advantages for data sharing as well. Then isolation of the host, efficient backup and migration, data management also becomes simplified, performance optimization, and also used for collaboration. But the main reason is that it provides data persistence because Docker by default is ephemeral in nature. Okay, so there is very a simple exercise for this. So we'll be performing the next that is exercise.
Is it backup of Docker image? You can say that.
No, it is not a backup of a Docker image. It will contain the real data of the Docker. Okay, so that due to some reason, if the container gets restarted or is not means get destroyed, and if you recreate it, the data will remain on the particular volume.
Okay.
Okay,
And the status will be the whenever it is broken down, like whenever there is a
S-
problem.
status means
Because
it won't be accessible because the container is not accessible, but the data will be saved somewhere. So when we recreate or Docker volume comes back online, the data will be again mapped to that volume, the particular volume. It's
no,
like
it's a
that our
continuous
uh,
backup of volume so that the data is always persistent.
no. It's not the backup of the volume. The data itself will be stored on the volume.
Okay.
So I'll
Okay.
give you an example. You know that where www.html is the
Mm.
location where all the data of the website resides, right?
Mm.
So what we will do is by default we'll map where www.html
Mm.
on that particular volume so that data
Okay.
gets means restored, not restored, stored on the that particular volume.
Mm.
It's like a external NFS volume as well, you can say, or you can think of it as a attaching an external disk to it so that the data remains on that particular disk.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
So
vice versa can happen, right? The data can get corrupt also. The data can
yeah,
get corrupt.
yes, it can get corrupt. So we need to take care of it. So the exercise is very simple. So I'll also perform it. You also follow it along with me. And means the volumes. So what I'm doing is I'm also opening this exercise on my mobile. On mobile it works. Okay. So you can close the screen sharing. Now I'll share my screen.
Okay.
So a very simple exercise we are doing today. And this is not much used, means we do not use Docker much. Yes, we do use Docker volume, okay, but mostly for development purposes only, not much in production. Either we use Docker compose, but just 10 to 20%, but 80% it is OpenShift or Kubernetes cluster or AKS, EKS that we'll be using. Okay, so just for knowing that we have something called volume, we are learning about the volume. So will
Brad,
yes,
what is destroyed? I mean, you mentioned it is for the very short time, right? It's
ephemeral
ephemeral.
means after the pod's life cycle, means when the pod is stopped due to some reason, there may be out of memory issue, right? The pod will be restarted due to that. And if the pod gets restarted, whatever data it had, it gets lost. Whatever it was in the var www.html, it will be lost.
Okay.
That the
Pods means
demo of sorry, pod means pod, not pod, it's containers.
okay.
In Kubernetes we called it pods, but we haven't learned about it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this one is like the the file, the application which is available in var www HTML.
Yes,
So
yes.
that, but that is residing in the Unix system, right?
Yeah, but in the production environment, the base host is also changed sometime. That will come to know when we learn about this Kubernetes. Okay.
Okay.
So for that, it is very difficult to give the demo because there won't be data loss. Now, as we have the VM here, right? That
Right.
VM, it is by default attached to the VM somehow because it is
Mhm.
just a virtualization. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to destroy that VM, then only we'll be able to see the demo. But just remember that is the nature. By default, the containers are ephemeral. They were meant to be kind of you can say computing only. Okay, so scale up, scale down. So when the load increases, the number of container increases. But also in terms of VM, okay, the data is always stored in some storage location so that it remains safe even in the production environment. Okay, it is
Mhm.
recommended that data is always stored on some NFS share or some external storage.
Right.
Okay, the same thing we
Okay.
are
So
doing.
this portion, that the Docker volume will be useful when we are learning the Kubernetes, when it works together.
Kind of, yeah. No,
Okay.
actually, this will be helpful when you working in a development environment at least, right?
Mhm.
Not in a production environment we can say, but in a development environment
Okay.
because we need persistence.
Okay.
Okay, so the first method we will learn using volume. So the command is first what I'll do is let me check. I'll have to delete everything. I think I have already done the cleanup. Yes, and Docker images. My screen is visible, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So one of the command to check if the volumes are available or not is docker volume ls. Okay. So as of now there is no volume created. So the command would be sudo docker volume create data wall. You can follow the exercise. The same commands are given in the exercise. Today you can perform along with me. It is very simple exercise. The volume is created. Now if I do docker volume ls, I can see a local volume is created called as data wall. Okay, now what we will do is we will create a new container. Okay, and we will just you means map this data wall which we created now, okay, to a particular directory inside the container, and we'll give it a name. Okay, so as per the exercise, just do sudo docker run hyphen d, means I'm running it in a detached mode. Okay, and now we have introduced a new option called hyphen v stands for volume. So the data wall which we created now, okay, that will be mapped, okay, to an app slash data app slash data, and we'll give the name to the container as web server, and the image which we are using is httpd. Okay, so it is trying to download the image first, httpd. So till now, whatever what options we have seen, one was hyphen d is for detached mode. Then we used to also map the hyphen p with hyphen p. Okay, so we are just concentrating on the volume part. So we are not using hyphen p today. Now,
What is
if you see,
HTTPD? Is
what
the
is
web
it?
server? HTTPD?
Yeah, HTTPD is also a web server like Apache or Nginx.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so sometimes we'll be taking examples of Nginx, sometimes we'll be taking examples of HTTPD. Now, one of the command to check, okay, so to get the details, first let's check the container ID. This is the container ID, and just do sudo docker inspect. Okay, when you do inspect, okay, it will give all the details of the container. Okay, so this is also one of the interview question. So how to get all the details of a particular container? So if you use docker inspect the container ID, it will give all the details that it is running. Okay, then so what we are interested is in volume. Okay, so if you see that volume, the volume which is attached to it is called data wall. The source means this is coming from the particular host, because we are creating a local volume, simple volume, but indirectly it is created on this particular host itself. So at what location it is? Var lib volumes data wall. Okay, so one of the method would be, we already know that what is the name of our volume. So we'll just do data underscore wall. Okay, grep it. Okay, so we can see the exact path where the volume is located on the host. So what I'll do is I'll just log in as a root, which is sudo su. I can become a root and just go to that particular directory, and I'll do ls. Okay, so the volume is created, but it is empty. Okay, but remember, I'm not inside the container now. I'm on a particular volume. And now what I'll do is I'll just create a file, simple file, and I'll just write inside it file So I'm writing something inside the volume file1.txt. For us, it is just looking like a directory. This is a persistent data. Control D. So we have created a file, okay, in a data wall, and it is the contents are file1 persistent data. Now let's log out back to our shell and just do docker ps. Now let's go inside the container. Sudo docker exec hyphen it. It means attached an interactive terminal, execute an interactive terminal for this container id and access its bash directory bin bash. Okay, now I'm inside the container, but I'm in usr local apache 2, but we have mapped it on app data. So let's go to slash app data inside the container and just do ls, and we can see the file1.txt is now also available on inside the container. Okay, so whatever we write, it will also be available inside the container. And if I modify it, okay, but let me see if vi editor works here. Vi file1.txt, so vi is not there. Let me check echo command. Echo data added and append it as file1.txt. Okay, so echo command is working. So with echo command also, whatever we print on the in double quoted will get appended inside the file. So just do file1.txt. So you can see a data is added inside the container. Now let's go outside the container and do sudo su and access that directory which we created, not directory, the volume. Just do ls and again check file1.txt. So it has data inside it. So because as this is mapped or mounted inside the container as app data, okay, whatever files and directories we keep, it will always remain persistent. Okay, so this was all about a simple volume, docker volume we create. So today what I'll do is I'll complete the other two exercises as well, and then we can continue with the practicals which you all can do. So this was a simple volume which we created. Now
Okay.
the
So it means like we are just uh, taking a backup of what we are having in our
see
Docker.
when we see backup, uh, backup is taken using some utility, okay, that
Right.
do this. But in this case, we are not doing it. Suppose you
Okay.
have it is just like mounting a USB disk to the operating
Okay.
system and taking a data
Mhm.
on it. So we have just mounted a volume instead of USB disk. Think of it as a volume which we attach to that container, and that USB disk will always have the data. So I
Okay.
would not, you can say that it's kind of a backup, okay, but
Mhm.
it gets always mounted because in a definition it is written that mount
Mhm.
this volume on this inside the container on this particular directory, that is app data in this case.
Okay.
Okay, so
So it
yes,
is going, the actual case is, what is the actual path of that file? Is it a data volume, or is it a app data
app data inside the container,
inside the container? Okay. Okay.
and outside the container that is on this particular volume, particular host, it will be something else.
Okay.
So now the next exercise we'll do. So just now we created Docker volume. Okay. So this is the command, this is the volume command given by Docker itself. But there is also one more method that is using bind mounts. In that, what we do is we just create a directory. Okay. So pwd, I mean home prayag. So what we'll do is we'll create a directory called host data. Host data means I'm creating it on a Docker host itself. I've created a host data, and what is its path? It is inside home Prayag data. So if I do pwd, I can see I am in a home Prayag and the host data is created. So what we will do is now all the data will be stored in this host data. Instead of creating a volume, we are using just a directory play of the host machine itself to store the data. So we'll add some data inside the host data. So the command is hello from bind mount. We are doing a bind mount. So using echo command also we can create a file. Whatever we echo, that is print, will get inside the host data, and we'll create a file called bind.txt. Okay, so a directory is created host data and it has a bind.txt file inside it. Okay, so we created just a plain directory and a file inside it. Now just run the Docker container, okay, in a detached mode, and again -v option to map. Okay, so we haven't learned about shell scripting, so but this is a part of shell scripting. So I'll explain this, but what we do is pwd slash host underscore data. Let's map it to app slash host underscore data, and the name of the container would be app server, and in this case we'll use nginx instead of httpd. We are using nginx. So this is only which is getting confusion, that what we are doing is we are printing the work directory. Dollar means whatever the output of pwd. Okay, just print it on the screen. Okay, so it will be slash home Prayag because I am in home Prayag, and the host directory is inside host data. Okay, so it is the equivalent of, you can also say, directly writing home data slash home Prayag. Okay, so rather than writing this, okay, I'll just write dollar $pwd because you are also having a home directory that is not the same as mine. Okay, and if you do copy paste, it will not work. So that's why I had to add this dollar $pwd. It is equivalent to slash home Prayag. In short, it is giving the value of pwd command. Whatever pwd output it gives, it gets appended there. So what we are doing is we are just mounting, or you can say mapping, host data directory of the host, that is particular host, this Linux bash and host, to apt host underscore data inside the container. Okay, so remember what data we have. The persistent data is bind.txt. So now when we go inside the container, okay, we can see app host data will have bind.txt. Now just do sudo docker ps, okay, and try to access this. Sudo docker exec hyphen it, okay, hyphen slash bin bash. So what does this mean? Docker execute an interactive terminal. IT stands for interactive terminal. Okay, attach an interactive terminal for this particular container ID and access its bash directory. Now just go to cd slash app host data and just check cat bind.txt. Again, if I add anything inside it, it will remain inside that particular directory. Data from container and just append it to bind.txt. Okay, cat bind.txt. Just log out from the container and check by host data bind.txt. It will also have the same data. So the data will always remain inside it host underscore data. So this was about bind mount. There is also one more exercise for using in-memory storage that you all have to do on your own. Okay, and it is just a simple exercise that doesn't make any sense. Okay, because we do not normally use the TMPFS. It is just for demo purpose. Okay, so you all perform these exercises now,
Is it
and
is
if
it
you
a
are
data